West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our gathering on this rather cool, chilly spring morning here in southeast Scarborough. I believe there were about 8 or 10 degrees below normal, but with all the rain we've had, hasn't it been great to see the green grass and the robins even digging for worms in the moist soil? Don't you love spring? Many years ago, our community chose to begin our Sunday gatherings with a land acknowledgement, as is a way for us, as treaty people, to honor our commitment to live in a peaceful and respectful relationship with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We are all treaty people means that people, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, have a shared responsibility and a shared benefit from the treaties signed between Indigenous peoples and governments. While the phrase emphasizes the importance of these treaties in shaping society, it also acknowledges the ongoing struggle for their full implementation and the need for reconciliation. Our Celebrations Committee has been working steadily to make our Sunday gatherings meaningful as possible. Ken Lawton, who up until recently was a member of our committee, suggested a responsive land acknowledgement with our congregation so that it could be meaningful, and we thank Ken for his insight. Our reading this morning is from the philosopher Louis Annaeus Seneca. Known simply as Seneca, he was born over 2,000 years ago in Spain. So the person who knows what is good is also the person who knows how to love. But if someone is incapable of distinguishing good things from bad and neutral things from either, well, how could such a person be capable of love? The power to love, then, belongs only to the wise.
There's something that I believe that we all have in common in life. Now, it's not that we all wish that the Maple Leafs won. Something more than that. I found it interesting, by the way. I was at the gym back in Ohio, and I was watching the game. And when they lost, I felt a little bit of sadness in me. And I thought to myself, you didn't even know who the Maple Leafs were a month ago. But I think it's because I know so many of you root for them, and I felt for you, because from my understanding, it takes some strength to be a Maple Leafs fan at times. That's a nice way of putting it. I believe that we all have something in common. I'm not the only one who has thought or believed this. Many of the ancient Greek philosophers, including Aristotle, had the same viewpoint. They called it the summum bonum. And I have the clicker, so I can actually. Now I'm remembering that the introduction threw me off. What pocket did I put the clicker in? Well, we're going to check the... Oh, there it is. I got it. There we go. So I have it on the screen there, just so, because you might hear me say it, and you might think, summum bonum, what is that? Yes, it's Latin, and this means basically the highest good. And Aristotle would argue that there's a highest good that we aim for, and I'm going to put another word on the screen, eudaimonia. Eudaimonia, so this is Greek, and the EU means good, as in, euphoric, you would have good feeling. So EU, good, and daimon would be a spirit, or they would translate it also as life, basically that zest, what gets you up in the morning. It's the good life. That's what it translates, the good life. We all have something in common. We want a good life. Now, we might know people who are aiming for that good life and doing well. We also might know people who does it seem like they're aiming for the good life. And I would reason that yes, they are, even if it's going through maybe destructive habits to try to get there, or having short-sightedness, taking shortcuts such as, pride or greed to get there. Now, I'm going to share a little bit of an argument that Aristotle would use, and he uses this argument at the beginning of his book, Nicomachean Ethics. And so in this writing, now I'm going to do a modern version of it, he would reason to this in this way, and this is a modern interpretation of it. Why does someone go to school? Okay, well, maybe their parents make them. And anybody been there before? Yep. But why do they go? To learn, we could say? Well, why do you want to learn? You learn about science or certain art. Well, maybe so then someday you could go to university or to a trade school or to go into art or music or acting. Well, Aristotle would keep on saying, why? What's the question behind the question? Why would you want to do that? Why do you want to go to a trade school or to art school or whatever it is that you do? I don't know, maybe one idea, to make some money, then you could, provide for yourself, have a place to live, food to eat. I mean, who likes food, right? Okay, there's two things that we all have in common. We all like food, right? That's important. So why would you, go to university or trade school? So you can provide for yourself. You can make a little bit of money. You can, take a trip or two that you can see the world, or you can have enough money to invite someone on a date and to connect with people. You see where this is going. Well, why would you want to do that? Question behind the question behind the question. And Aristotle would say that it all comes to the summum bonum. We all want this destination in life. We might be over there, but we want to arrive at a spot. The summum bonum. We want this good life. So the actions that we take to get us there, they're all about having eudaimonia. So how do we get to that place? It's one of the biggest questions of life. That's why philosophers, and not just philosophers who sit in a nice office with lots of books around them, we're all philosophers. We all have our different ideas of life. This has been the question of humanity. How do we have that good life? I firmly believe, as well as Aristotle and other researchers and philosophers, that the way to the good life, if we're right here and we're trying to get to that good life, we do it through the vehicle of love. Now, Aristotle, he would say virtue. If we want to have the good life, then we should do good. When I think of it, though, and I read his writings, I think of the word love. A couple weeks ago, we explored the Harvard study of adult development. And the researcher, if you recall, Dr. George Valiant, the person who's the director of the study for decades, was asked, all right, Dr. Valiant, what have you learned? Decades of research, millions of dollars spent. What leads to the good life? And what did he say? Happiness, the good life, equals love. And then he penned an article later. And the article title was, I stand by my words. Happiness equals love, full stop. We get to this destination of the good life through loving action. Well, that begs a question. With the video, what is love? Now you have that song playing through your head. You're welcome. Thank you, Aiden. What is love? Now I want to say, I firmly believe that if someone prioritizes love, that they will get, to the best life that they can. But I will say that sometimes on this journey, that they can kind of zigzag. Maybe they can take routes that they didn't need to take. They can get off the path. They can have different things that they weren't aware of happen to them. That's life. That happens. But if we can understand love better, maybe there's less zigzag that happens. Maybe there's, routes that we see because we've had people who have come before us and have taken these routes. And we can learn from them. We can learn wisdom. We can understand what the good, what love is. Now, I hold up my phone here because this is what I use for my maps. Now, I have to say, I meant to bring an actual map this morning, and I forgot it back in Ohio. And then on the way here, I thought, well, maybe a gas station would have one. What do you all think? Did they have a map? I stopped at a truck stop thinking maybe I'd have a higher chance of finding a map there. I looked around the store. I didn't see one. I went to the person working, and I said, do you have this thing called a map? And they looked at me, and they said, what? They said, we haven't had that for years. Either way, wisdom, understanding what love is, it's kind of like having a map. It says, hey, have you thought about this route? Maybe here's a little bit more of a scenic route that you could take. Here's what others have done, or watch out for this slowdown ahead. Be aware of that. And so what is love? It's us learning what wisdom is, what the good is. If we want the good life, we need to understand what good is. Now, I'm not alone in this as well, in this thinking. Leo Buscaglia. Has anybody, I'm just curious, has anybody ever heard of Leo Buscaglia? In my opinion, what an incredible speaker. I mean, if someone listened to Leo, if you've ever heard him, he speaks with such zest and such life. He was a professor at the University of Southern California, and he asked the university if he could teach a course named Love. He thought that was so important. So many students are coming here, and they're learning all these great things. But if they learn knowledge and they don't have love, that's it. It's just knowledge. It's not wisdom. And he wanted to teach a class on love, and he did, and became a very popular course. And then he went on to speak on love all around the world in different TV programs. And he has this quote here. It says, if someone desired to know about automobiles, they would, without question, study diligently about automobiles. If their partner desired to be a gourmet cook, they'd certainly study the art of cooking, perhaps even attending a cooking class. Yet it never seems as obvious to many that if we want to live in love, we must spend at least as much time as the auto mechanic or the gourmet in studying love. And then, another quote, and I've shared this before, but I like this quote, so, that's why I bring it back to us. Humanist psychologist Erich Fromm, in his book, Art of Loving, he writes, if we want to learn how to love, we must proceed in the same way we have to proceed if we want to learn any other art, say music, painting, carpentry, or the art of medicine or engineering. What are the necessary steps in learning any art, he asked? The process of learning an art can be divided conveniently in two parts. One, the mastery of the theory. The other, the mastery of the practice. We'll come back to that in just a second here, those two parts there. He continues, if I want to learn the art of medicine, I must first know the facts about the human body and about various diseases. When I have all this theoretical knowledge, I am by no means competent in the art of medicine. I shall become a master in this art only after a great deal of practice, until eventually the results of my theoretical knowledge and the results of my practice are blended into one. If we want to know what love is, we need to study it. It enhances our ability. We all want that good life. And we want that good life for ourselves and for others. And that's why we come together. Now, I was going to come back to these two parts here. It's spoken of in this last line. The results of my theoretical knowledge and the results of my practice are blended into one. I mentioned Aristotle earlier. He had a way of saying this. So the theoretical knowledge was the word Sophia, wisdom. Theoretical knowledge, theoretical wisdom. It's the things that we know, and that's good. We can talk about things, and we can know it here, but if it doesn't get to here, to our heart, and then to our feet, to our actions, that might just be all that it is, theoretical knowledge. And while that's good, Aristotle actually preferred another form of wisdom. So it says here, practice. And the word for this practical wisdom, was phronesis. Phronesis. When we can practice it. That's the key. That's how we get to this good life. It's one thing just to be here and have all this knowledge, but to put it in action, when I ask the question, what is love? I find it interesting that love is usually used as a verb. It implies action. To fill this space, once again, I'm throwing a lot of random words at you this morning. There's a Hebrew term called zimzum. Isn't that fun to say? Zimzum. And it means the space between us, the space between something. There's a space between us right now. And it's how we relate to each other, but it's also how we relate to what we want out of life. So how do we fill this space? As we've said here at West Hill, to be guided by love. And the best way then to understand that is to grow in wisdom. I'm excited for this journey. This is a journey that we're all on together. We're all grounded in life. We all want this same thing, this good life. What a joy that we get to do this together. It's an amazing thing. Anytime that I speak or someone else speaks here, and I like that we use the term perspective, because it just doesn't imply that one person has the map that holds all the knowledge. It's a route that each one of us has taken, and we can share about our perspective of things. But every time that I come and speak, and I think others as well, this is what we're getting at. All that we're doing is we're talking about another perspective of love. Because I truly believe that's what the good life, what it all comes back to. So there might be a week where we come together and we talk about justice. I think of Martin Luther King and his viewpoints on love and how he saw, one of the main characteristics of love is justice. And I mentioned Aristotle. They had what would be called the cardinal virtues. And one of the main ones was justice. I've heard it said before that, speaking of justice is how you love in public. So there's all these different parts of love, or maybe one week we'll talk about courage, and I mentioned this before. Courage is love in action. Every time we come together, whatever topic it is, it's coming back to this concept of what is love, to understand it, so that our journey, that we can arrive at eudaimonia in a better way, and for those around us that they can too. This morning, I thought about getting into some different theories of what wisdom is, the different components of it. And I had that on my agenda of things to talk about. And as I was going through things, over things in my head last night as I was driving here, I used a term earlier with Scott. I thought, Joe, let's keep the main thing. And the term I used with Scott earlier was, don't overcook the turkey. Maybe it's right at the right temperature right there. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's keep it at this. Once again, what is love? To me, it's the pursuit of learning what the good life is all about and putting it into action. And I'm excited for that journey and that pursuit with you. At this time, I'm going to ask that we have a moment of reflection. And I'm going to ask that you consider two questions. Two questions. The first question is, what are you doing to develop an understanding of what love is? I'll word it another way. What are you doing to pursue wisdom? Maybe you've been on a good path, and as you reflect, you say, keep that up. Keep going with that. Or maybe you say, hey, I could do a little bit better in this way. That's okay. We're always learning, how the path should take us. So the first question, what are you doing to pursue wisdom, to pursue an idea of what love is? And then the second question, what are you doing to help others in that pursuit of what love is and what wisdom is? So we're going to take a moment of silence. Think about what you're doing to pursue wisdom and what you're doing to help others.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.